Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brent. I'm the host for Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. And today I have Bonita Zarrillo joining us on the show to talk about the Canada Disability Benefit, the update of what's going on with that. And thank you very much, Bonita, for coming on. It's a great pleasure having you back on the show and talking about an update on the Canada Disability Benefit. Great discussions for sure.
Well, thank you so much for having me today, and it was really nice to see you actually in Vancouver this summer when we were out together with Jeff. That was wonderful.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure to finally meet you in person. You are a great advocate, Bonita, and I envy everything that you do to bring the awareness of all the inequalities and really pushing hard. And we all appreciate all the hard advocacy work that you're doing.
Thank you for that, and I think but there's been some really great coverage this summer from the disability advocates, and yeah, it's too bad that it has to be such a fight all the time, but I just really appreciate all of the advocates that have done so much work this summer to raise the profile of the reality of income inequalities and poverty and the challenges that persons with disabilities experience in Canada.
Yeah, advocacy never takes a break.
No, that's for sure. And I think there was an article about just this week talking about that poverty doesn't take a break either. So yeah, it's been a very busy summer for advocates for persons with disabilities, and I raise my hands to all of them.
Yes, and and we're all working hard at in making a positive change for the better for everybody. Bonita, could you give us an update of what's happening with the Canada Disability Benefit, the Bill C22?
Yeah, so C22 came back to the floor. It was tabled again in the spring, basically. It's an exact copy of what was tabled just before the election, and so of course we rose for summer break, and throughout summer break there hasn't been any legislative work. We haven't been in session, so the work that I've been doing is around reaching out to the community, some advocacy work, and then I do have some amendments, or one amendment for sure, that I'm working now with the minister on to have some adequacy some language around adequacy in the bill. Right now, there is some aspirational statements in the preamble and wanting to lift folks out of poverty, but it really needs to be in the principles of the bill, that this bill needs to solve this income inequality and needs to lift people out of poverty that have disabilities in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the amount that I've been hearing. I know Jeff, when we were doing the campaign on end legislated poverty in Western Canada for the kickoff tour, the updated amount that Jeff's come out with now is, according to the LICO formula for 2022, is $2,378. So basically means nobody in Canada with a disability should be living less than that poverty level. So I'm wondering what will happen with that bill, with the amount that I guess that will get going forward, I guess, on the tax measures on that.
Yeah, well, there hasn't been an amount. I mean, that's the thing when the bill came out. There's three very important factors that were missing when that bill was tabled again, and that is the amount, as you say, what is it going to be? The eligibility was not outlined or clearly defined, and nor was a timeline. So, I mean, those are the three areas that we're still waiting for answers on, and I would have thought with that year between when it was first tabled before the election and when it came back nearly a year later, there would have been some movement on that. I mean, there's supposedly been consultation from the government, and we know that many groups are ready. They have definitely let the government know that what the criteria should be for eligibility. There has been a lot of talk about what the amount should be, so it's very surprising that when that bill came back, there was really nothing. It was devoid of any particulars, any details.
Yeah, it's all empty with nothing in it, and definitely, I know that's what I've been hearing from a lot of fellow advocates too. They're saying, well, what is the amount? And there was different posts here and there, people indicating like $19,000, and it'd be like a total amount between provincial and and federal, but there's nothing really in that bill. Like, that's just a number that's been floating out there. But yeah, it's worrisome, right? Because people need to know, can they survive? I mean, on having that as a top up, because definitely, as we know, the rates across the provinces right now are way below, like 40 to 50% below the poverty level. At one time, it was 40% because of inflation. That number now has grown drastically, and especially in Ontario. My gosh, I mean, only a 5% increase, what, $58, and apparently I guess the recipients are going to get that at the end of September. So, and that's not going to do anything for them, especially with the cost of living and with the delay in that Canada Disability benefit. I would really love to see an interim amount in place while they work on it to help lift people out of poverty. It won't lift them right out, but until that's done, at least that's going to give them a lot more breathing room where they can actually live. Because so many people are seeking aid, and that's not the solution to the income inequality. That should be the last resort, right?
Absolutely. And I just, I hear you on how difficult it has been, and especially for those in Ontario where the cost of living, and here in BC as well, like, they're just skyrocketing costs of living, and there just haven't been those increases. And I think that's one of the pieces that I'm working with the minister right now on, what I'm calling adequacy of the benefit. And it's if there's a number that's chosen, it needs to be that market basket measure that Stats Canada publishes for the poverty line, right? So instead of inserting a number, but to say that benefit needs to be set by the regulation in the amount that's no less than what the government has, and Stats Canada has agreed is the official poverty line in Canada, which is the market basket measure. And I know there's many issues and problems with market basket measure and what it measures. But at the very least, this Canada Disability benefit should be tied to that. If the government is serious about reducing poverty, then they need to have it tied to that poverty line, which has been widely accepted and known. It's Stats Can accepted that that's what this market basket measure should be. So, I mean, that's where I'm going. That's the conversations that I'm having with the minister, and we really have an opportunity here to meet the goals, the sustainable development goals of the world around reducing poverty. We have the opportunity to do that work in Canada. Everybody has the right to independence, dignity, autonomy, and I mean, this is the challenge with in Canada right now, is that many persons with disabilities don't, and it's unacceptable, and that's why we need to get to this Canada Disability benefit. We need to get the government needs to live up to the promises of all Canadians having equal independence, dignity, autonomy, and I hope we get there soon.
So I'm going to move over to Patricia Bonita. I know that you have to leave very shortly, so I'm just going to get into maybe some quick questions. Anyone have some questions for Bonita here, and then we'll continue on.
That sounds great. And actually, Patricia and I got to say a little bit of hello when we were in Vancouver on site the day that she was doing the show.
Oh, yeah, that's great too. It was actually quite exciting because I remember joking with you. I said, yeah, I'm actually accomplishing two things at once. I have Patricia running the show, and I was able to meet with you, and we were able to do Jeff's kickoff tour, and so that was quite an exciting day. Right, Patricia? That was great for Patricia. She goes, I don't know how to run the show.
It was an exciting day. Yes, I was speaking to Scott Santons that day, who's a true pioneer in the basic income movement. And he was on chatting with us about UBI, and then you were there, and that was so cool. It was such a cool day. Such a cool day. But what I'd like to chat with you about in this moment is, the thing I appreciate the most about you as a member of Parliament is that, you don't really take too many prisoners. And I think that's a very bold move on the part of a member of Parliament. Now, something which we as constituents throughout the entire country are beginning to realize, we're not truthfully, in a candid way, we are not facing a difficult situation anymore. We are now facing a dire situation where the wealth disparity comes. Now, all targeted measures, no matter what they are, from provincial measures like ODSP or PWD to GIS, all kind of sit around the same sort of garnered output, like from $17,000 a year to $22,000 a year. They all basically sit around that amount. And truthfully, no matter what, no matter where you live, that is not enough to live on. It just isn't, because that is not the tone of the economy. And from the PBO to LICO to the NBM, poverty has shifted. It's become something new. When we have people who are legitimately seeking out MAID for the sake of not being able to afford a place to live because they have multiple chemical sensitivities, that's saying something real about society now. And not only that, but when society allows for that kind of thing to go through, that is saying something else about the government. That's saying that the government really, quite honestly, doesn't care, and they're expanding what MAID really means to include mental health. That is a problem. Truthfully, I believe that we need more from what we're seeing in terms of financial aid. Now, it's all very well for the Canada Disability Benefit to be like, oh, we're going to top you up, yay, this is going to be great, you're going to be fine, and so on and so forth. But we don't need a top up as far as I'm concerned. What we genuinely need is we need to be able to create not people, but situations where people are contributors, contributors in society. And I feel as though we can tether people to these situations where they are, reformed is the wrong word, but where they feel empowered. And they don't necessarily need to be forced into the workplace, which is always the baseline for, cabinet members. Cabinet members love to create jobs, but people with disabilities and seniors, they're not people who are going to work. We have an aging population. You turn 65 years old, you kind of expect to be able to enter that next phase of your life where you don't necessarily have to work. You've been working. And if you're a person with a disability, you can't work necessarily. You're facing fatigue, you're facing not being able to walk, so on and so forth. And so, why aren't we looking for ways to manufacture a benefit where people can ultimately become, why aren't we changing the mindset? Why aren't we looking for a way to ultimately work towards the tone of the economy? The tone of the economy being a legitimate wage, where we are looking at not just being able to pay rent and not just being able to buy food, but being able to enjoy a quality of life and being able to function autonomously within the world. Why isn't that starting to become the goal? Because the wealth disparity is massive. And it's not like we're not seeing the wealthy and seeing how they function and seeing how they control the economy. Whenever we hear the word GDP, a high GDP, or a booming economy, it is always based on how the wealthy function within the economy. So why aren't we looking to change how that rolls around and looking at how the bedrock of society, which is ultimately 2/3 of the nation?
Bonita?
Just amazing comments, Patricia, and I would say to you that the conversation is changing. It's just not changing fast enough, and there are spaces like this space that we're in today that are having these conversations, and they are growing.